Hello, everyone. Welcome to Partnerships in Your App. I'm Chris Maddern, one of the co-founders of Button, and I'm excited to take a little bit of time and talk to you about how we see and you can take advantage of your app inside of the partnerships channel, and how partnerships in particular can be a main driver of innovation and of new app customers for you. Before we jump in, a minute about Button. If you haven't heard of us, we work with the biggest brands to drive mobile marketing outcomes. We do that predominantly and originally by helping folks add their mobile apps into their affiliate and partnerships programs. And we do that for many of the biggest brands in the US. Today, that's diversified into a number of other services that we'll touch on a tiny bit later, but trying to kind of just focus on the important things for today. My name's Chris. I'm one of our co-founders and chief innovation officer. And I actually didn't start in the world of partnerships, and I kind of accidentally wound my way in there. I've spent most of my career in consumer products, in apps, and saw the proliferation of app commerce and mobile shopping. And that was what kind of led our way into what we didn't even know existed at the time, or at least I didn't know existed at the time, which is kind of this affiliate partnerships industry. We just wanted to build better infrastructure to help support brands who are increasingly building mobile app experiences, and consumers who increasingly wanted mobile app experiences, help build the bridges to make that essentially possible. And that's kind of what manifested to date in Button. So let's talk a little bit about apps. I'm sure some of this isn't new to you, but I think it's really important to set the stage of why should you even care if your app can be a part of your partnerships program in the first place? And what should your objectives be in doing that? On mobile. So mobile, we've been talking about it for 10 years now. And it's still one of the consistently fastest scaling channels. And importantly now, it's no longer scaling from nothing to something. It's scaling from $1 trillion to $1.3 trillion to, today we're getting 2022, we're expected to break $4 trillion in mobile commerce worldwide, consistently still growing at 20% year over year. This year is, for many folks, going to be the crossover year where we start to see mobile not as the exception, but rather as the rule. And a number of brands are already starting to report, and we expect the aggregate this year to tip ever so slightly in the favor of mobile, depending on who you ask. Projections of kind of 52 to 54% mobile conversions in terms of GMV are predicted for this year. Importantly, we are way behind what's happening in Asia. You hear absolutely crazy numbers of adoption, like Singles Day last year, which is the kind of main sales event for Alibaba. They saw almost 90% of GMV happening on mobile devices. And what we've seen is what's been happening in the US has been trailing what's been happening in Asia, but has been coming to the forefront, largely because that population has just become mobile native a lot quicker. The generation of folks who grew up with smartphones in their hand, mobile payments were faster to be adopted there, but the same trends are coming in. In terms of app scale, it's hard to get a really, really great number here. And so what we've done is, at Button, we see a huge amount of app sales. We also see a huge amount of mobile web sales, and we see that across a variety of different industries. And so what we've done is taken kind of the rate that we see of kind of app to mobile web breakdown, and use that to estimate roughly how we think that would project out. My guess is this is a very conservative number. And particularly when you look at the skew towards app in Asia of total worldwide, my guess is it's actually closer to $1 trillion, but 500 billion is a conservative number worldwide. I can be pretty confident that it's larger than that. And so that's just an enormous piece of the pie in terms of kind of overall worldwide sales. In terms of unit economics, we see this very consistently across the marketplace. App customers convert and stay better. And so you have this kind of double benefit of the very first session you can get a user into an app, their single session conversion increases, and this can vary between 20 and 100%, depending upon the industry and the vertical, and the quality of the app. Some folks are more heavily invested in their apps, others are kind of a little bit more emerging. But ultimately, it's very, very rare to find someone who has kind of a well thought out app as part of their strategy where it doesn't lead to better single session conversions. Where it really starts to differentiate is after that first session, lifetime value is enormously different in app than mobile web, because you can keep users coming back. You can give them the convenience of kind of sticky sessions, logins, all of those good things. And this is aggregate data from across around $2 billion of transactions that we analyzed on our side. And it works out at about 2.23x. So if you can move a user from instead of converting in mobile web to converting in your app, on average, that will lead to 2.23 times the LTV. And, here we're focusing on the brand metrics and kind of the outcomes from a business standpoint. But we have to also translate that into the user's world. These things are happening not just because we convince them to do something or coerce them to do something. These are because we're making it easier for them to shop, easier for them to come back. We're giving them a more seamless shopping experience. And essentially, they're rewarding us, they're rewarding a brand for giving them that easier experience that they can then easily come back to and shop again. And so from that perspective, really is a win-win-win where for the brand, for yourself, you're driving more sales. For anyone who's sending traffic through partnerships, it's driving more sales, which leads to greater conversion commissions. And then for the user, it's just a better experience, both in that single session, but also in the overall experience of the brand. Why do apps perform better? Some really obvious ones. You're on the user's home screen. When you're on the mobile web, you're kind of there until you're not, and then the user has to actively choose to come back to the browser and look at you. There's a good chance that you make it to that kind of coveted real estate of the pixels on their home screen, and the front of mind that gives you with the customer is just absolutely enormous. Push notifications are a really convenient channel for re-engagement. While not the highest attention channel anymore, push notifications have definitely gone through a life cycle over the last 6-7 years, where they started out very novel, 8 years, however many years it is, it's been a while. They started out very novel, quite high attention. Today, they're a lot lower attention. So where if you compare a push notification with something like an SMS message, you're going to get very much lower kind of engagement and very much lower conversion per message sent. But particularly for transactional, particularly for kind of active, personalized re-engagement, they can be a really good channel to keep attention. And you're there wherever you go, wherever they go. You're just kind of more convenient. There's a number of native features that really drive conversion. Native payment functionality on both platforms is just an enormous benefit. Apple and Android Pay, if you look at the statistics of conversion when you adopt them, they can range from really solid double-digit percentages like 40-50%, to many brands are reporting multi-100% improvements when they adopt these kind of already pre-stored customer credentials with one-tap checkout features that now are pretty seamless in both iOS and Android. Apps have the advantage of not having to load the whole page to show you everything, only downloading the data they need. So particularly on slower connections, if you have the app already, it's a much faster shopping experience. And you can include a lot more rich media and kind of interactive experiences. So there's folks like Warby Parker, for example, do an absolutely phenomenal job of using some of these capabilities to help customers to visualize in augmented reality what a pair of glasses will do for them. Stuff like that is really pushing the edges of what an app can do for you, but ultimately does drive better user experiences that lead to better conversion. And that's kind of a running trend. If you can create a better user experience on app, you will drive better outcomes for the user and for us and for the brand. System features like search can be a really compelling way to get more discovery as well. And then there's another piece, and there's some really interesting research around this, which is the slightly less tangible kind of brand relationship piece. And there are studies that try to isolate why and when users come back to brand apps And even if not on the home screen, users come back to brand apps that they've downloaded more, even if controlled for interest. And it's not entirely clear why that is. However, ultimately, that opt-in, that deepening of the relationship, just seems to have some positive benefit, almost kind of like the whole love is a verb thing. To download is a verb, and deepens that relationship. So why isn't everyone using their app in their partnerships? It's a question I ask myself, we ask ourselves all the time. When you look at the numbers, when you look at the performance of the app, it just makes complete sense. So there's really two big buckets of challenges and concerns that we typically see. Number one, development. The mobile team can be kind of like a scary and remote resource, like, oh no, don't know how to kind of get them to do things, or the roadmap's really tight, things like that. And some of those challenges are real, although today increasingly, both through kind of a mixture of customer data platforms, other kind of channel solutions, but also just simplifying integrations, this lift is not large, and the rewards are very worth it on the other side. And then from a measurement standpoint, it's not always clear to folks how they're going to understand what the benefit of this is. So helping them to know, okay, how much better was this than if I'd sent the user to the mobile web? How would we do a control study holdout? And kind of all of those things that independently might be a little bit challenging, particularly if you have to do it on a new platform. But again, these can be easily accomplished on platforms like Maddern. So let's talk about how people are getting app users today. And this is really where you hear about the duopoly, you hear about Facebook, and you hear about Google. And both of them have pretty at scale app install offerings today. Facebook kind of invented this business from kind of a just straight up app install ad offering, and has an incredibly scaled audience and can drive installs at almost any scale that you want, as long as you're pretty elastic on cost. And I'm sure there's a lot of folks watching this now who can identify with the cost to acquire an actual paying customer through things like app install ads can become very, very, very high. It's largely targeted at getting installs. You can train to kind of downstream conversion signals, but often the cost of getting an install that really leads to a conversion can be at a really high portion of certainly your profit on the customer in that sale, but often honestly on the entire LTV of that customer. We routinely talk to customers who, in order to reach the scale they want, they have to pay 60, 70, 80, 90% of customer LTV in order to be able to acquire customers at the scale that they want. And that's just a really, really challenging operating environment. And then on top of that, with iOS 14.5 and the inability to re-engage with IFA and increasingly with other identifiers without explicit consumer opt-in, that channel just no longer scales without cost becoming pretty prohibitive. So we've had a number of customers report over the last 6 weeks, 10 weeks, whatever it is, that their ROI has been more than cut in half on this channel just because of increasing costs. Google, similar challenge, similar scale, again, mostly focused on installs. Actually, I think Facebook does a better job than Google here of actually being able to tune to conversions. And again, you're going to get a lot of downloads, but what are you really going to get in terms of customers who stick around and are valuable to you? Install campaigns drive installs, but are they really driving high value customers? Enter partnerships. This is where I actually think partnerships, I think affiliate is one of the most underrated channels that exists. It's the steady, stable, reliable channel that everyone overlooks because you don't have to think about it and keep doing things to a certain extent. And it gets overlooked for some of its capabilities to drive real, meaningful, scalable, elastic results. And around 16% of US e-commerce sales are accounted for in affiliate. That's an enormous amount of sales. And the median ROI, this figure kind of depends who you ask. So I picked the button one. This is like roughly what we see for folks based on their affiliate commissions across our network, or rather our platform, is 12x. And that's really, really, really high. Show me anyone who's getting 12x on their Facebook ads, and I will be very, very, very surprised. Meanwhile, in terms of what it's doing on the app side, in the vast majority of cases, it's driving none of those conversions in app because there's kind of a missing technology bridge there in a lot of cases, and it's not driving new app customers for these brands. So all brands are investing in these shiny new apps and building the best possible customer experience for the mobile device. Meanwhile, one of the most reliable and important channels for customers inbound can't take advantage of it. So this is where, a little bit of a product plug, and I apologize for that, but it really is tough when your ideology and your product are so intermeshed. This is what we believe, which is by getting users into the app, which is the thing that you've invested so much in to create the best customer experience, you can drive better performance inside of your affiliate program. You can provide better performance for your publishers and just a better brand experience for that user. And so this is a product that we work with most of the major affiliate networks on, which essentially allows you to bolt your app program with Button into the side of your affiliate network. So if you look at this video, this is an example of the page that you might see when you tap to install the app from an affiliate link. And essentially it's an interstitial in the middle of the flow inside one of your link taps from a publisher. So in this case, I think it came from Reward Style. The user was offered to install the app. And then once they did, they get to continue that shopping session inside of the app. And all of those sales will be correctly commissioned back to Reward Style. The user gets the kind of best possible shopping experience, and the user is now a Zulily app customer in this case, and hopefully is going to be kind of a better retained customer for Zulily. So everyone wins in that scenario. And this is essentially the business we're in, what we're excited about. We think that by getting in the middle of these partnership shopping journeys, you can interject so much value by personalizing that experience, by allowing users, if they have the app, to deep link, if they don't have the app, to install the app, if they look like a low likelihood converting customer, let's get their phone number and re-engage them via SMS. And so Button, we're trying to build the ultimate kind of middle of the journey personalization product that allows you to create the best shopping journey for that customer wherever they're coming from. Affiliate and partnerships has been kind of where we focused our energies there for the last couple of years, and just give every user the best possible experience that leads to the best possible outcome for everyone. Fancy little diagram. So it's kind of the decision journey of essentially this page in the middle is the crux of the product here. So if the user doesn't have the app installed, they get an option and they get this page, and this interstitial is your opportunity to personalize that journey for the customer, by default allowing them to get the app. But you can do other things here, like change the messaging based on who they are and kind of some of their past historical behavior, and really just kind of starting to expand it into a journey personalization solution. So a couple quick case studies, particularly on the app front. This is a pretty recent one that we're really, really excited about. And when I mentioned it to the PartnerIce team, we were talking about this, they're pretty excited with this as a focus. We have found in the last 6 to 12 months, as app install campaigns have become more and more expensive, folks can use this technology not just in their traditional partnerships, but also across other channels that they want to convert any regular traffic into app traffic in order to drive installs and new shopping app customers at a really great rate. And in this one particular case, the rate of around 100,000 new app shoppers a month, which is over 1 million installs a year. And when you take the cost per new shopping paying customer, it's less than a third of what they were seeing on Facebook. And so to be able to offer and to be able to take advantage of scaled app acquisition through a channel that no one really thinks about for app acquisition, and to be able to do so at a scale of 1 million installs and an ROI that's 3x the kind of primary channel that you do that through, that's really, really exciting. and something that we're really excited by. And fundamentally, what this really comes down to is at $12, they're positive on that first purchase. At $36, they make a loss on that first purchase. And by moving them to the app, you're also increasing lifetime value. So the overall picture is enormous, but just to be able to move your first customer, your first in-app purchase from a loss maker to a profit maker is pretty enormous and something that we're really, really excited by. And then single session conversion in this case also went up by around 60%. So I couldn't get permission to share the actual numbers, unfortunately. So they're baseline versus conversion, but a 60% increase in conversion while dropping your cost to get a new customer and increasing the LTV of that is kind of a combination of things that is really exciting, but is also quite typical as we've rolled this out across brands and added apps to these programs. We've just consistently seen results that, at first we wanted to double check and triple check, and now every time a brand wants to double check and triple check. But the truth is, your app is a superpower that's just kind of sat in the stable and ready to go and ready to supercharge your affiliate and your partnerships programs. The other last kind of quick case study that I'll give you is just less about app activation and more about just general conversion activation of the app. So by using a mixture of our AI-driven smart routing and installs and deep linking, in this case, this particular retailer had a pretty good app install base. So when you already have an app install base, what that means is you have customers out there who have your app, who are being taken to the web because the affiliate program doesn't support the app today. And so are either dropping off or converting at a lower rate, or going to the app and making the purchase, but it's not being tracked. And so, the commission's being lost there. And so they had a pretty strong app install base. And what we were seeing is just by activating that app and adding, a decent but modest number of installs, around 20,000, we were able to drive an additional $600,000 in sales over, I think it was literally a 2-month period, driving an additional 20,000 installs across a number of their partnerships campaigns. And as you can see at the bottom, that's a really material lift on just the overall program size during that period. And with that, if you take one thing from this, I really hope it's that your app plus your partnerships can lead to really, really good things. And it doesn't have to be super scary. It doesn't have to be really hard. It can be measured, both in kind of new platforms like Button, or potentially existing platforms like Button if you're using it, but also through many of your existing tools. Both we, kind of anyone else here, can work with your customer data platform, can work with your existing MMP to make sure that all of this stuff can line up, because ultimately we all need one source of truth that helps us understand how this is really working, making sure we're not just moving sales from one column to another. That doesn't really help anyone, but make sure that we're actually creating net lift and real kind of like incremental value, both for the program, for the brand, but also for the end user. And in every case, when we've rolled out apps, that's exactly what we found we've done. Thank you very much for taking the time to listen, and I hope to see your app in your program soon.